And maybe you as a leader have run into challenges like that even this year, and you begin to ask the question, why am I in business? What is it that I'm really trying to do here? What are the things that matter most to our business, our clients, and so that you make sure that you're on mission.
Welcome to Build Your Culture Brand with Dr. Jay Rains. Join us as we discover ways to define, measure, and grow your culture. We want to help you intentionally build a culture that fits you.
Hey leaders, welcome back to the Build Your Culture Brand podcast. I hope you're finding value in this podcast, and I wanted to take a moment of reflection to consider a few questions. My company's name is LeadersQ, and that Q means several different things, but one of the things it means to me is asking great questions. So I think it's really important to take time as a business leader, a business owner, someone who's running a podcast to reflect. And one of the reflecting questions that I'm talking about today is, what is the purpose of this podcast? Are we delivering value to you, our listeners? And what is that value? The reason I even started putting together this podcast was that I had met so many amazing leaders and they had such great stories. And I kept thinking, man, if other people could hear this story, it might help them. And so I hope one of the things we've been able to deliver to you this year is an introduction to some amazing leaders across the country, around the world, that are doing incredible things, and they've had struggles and they've had challenges, and they've been able to share their story with you. And I hope you found several of those you've been able to relate to, and it's had an impact on you personally. And I'd love to hear that impact. I'd love to hear where that value has hit you. And as we thought about putting together this podcast, we had a message we wanted to deliver, and that message we decided to primarily deliver it to our clients. And so as we record, as we think about doing interviews, I have in mind the people that we're working with, and the teams and the people that we're coaching, and the challenges that they're facing. I have them in my mind so that the questions that I ask and the guests that we have are targeted at addressing right where they are, right where they are also facing challenges and struggles and victories. And I do that because I believe that if I'll focus on them and think about and have them in mind, that's probably going to relate to a larger audience, that you're a listener that maybe isn't our client, right? And you can relate to some of the things that our clients are going through, or friends of mine might be going through. So I wanted to really hone in on those very practical levels, those very practical moments in their lives, so that you would have an opportunity to relate as that third chair. I'm in my chair, guest chair, and then you're the third chair. And we really want to speak to that third chair, and that's you. Another reason that we wanted to do this podcast this year and even into the next years is we wanted to create the ability to have community. That I knew that there were leaders that we were interacting with, that I wanted them to be able to hear from each other and to be able to hear each other's story, and then maybe even reach out to one another and connect and talk more about that particular part of their journey. And so we wanted to create a forum where you could listen in on an interview and on a discussion, and maybe get to know that person a little bit better, so that when if you wanted to reach out to them, you'd already know some of the questions you wanted to ask them and find out more, or go visit them or learn more about their journey. So, we have these few minutes together. We're able to unpack part of their story, but there's so much more that you can unpack as you get to know each other. So we wanted to create a place where leaders could kind of virtually meet each other, and then hopefully follow up and get to know each other even more. So creating that sense of community within our LeadersQ network. So some of the things going on behind the scenes, just in my own leadership journey, as I lead a team of coaches, and as we work with clients around the country and sometimes even around the world, is that there are ups and downs, even, in every business, especially in this type of coaching business. And so we hit one of those walls earlier this year where we really had to think, okay, what is our message? Um, have we been misunderstood because we're trying to do too many things for too many different kinds of clients? Do we need to narrow our focus? Do we need to change our message? We had 4 or 5 clients hit a huge success and just reach this amazing plateau that we got to celebrate with them, but that ended up meaning that we were kind of at the end of our relationship with them. They were moving on to other things. And so with that all hitting at once, it left us in a strange place to where the win didn't feel like a win. And we really had to kind of take a step back and say, okay, wait a minute, what is our message to our own clients? And maybe you as a leader have run into challenges like that even this year. And you begin to ask the question, why am I in business? What is it that I'm really trying to do here? What are the things that matter most to our business, our clients, and so that you make sure that you're on mission? And I think we all go through those moments, but I'm kind of letting you in on that moment in time for me. And I think as I really got into that moment, I had to ask myself some really hard questions. One of those was, what is success? Is success attached to these certain metrics, or is there another way to look at success? And I really had to back up and ask, what is success? Things were going pretty well. It just wasn't going as well as I had anticipated in that season. And so it kind of put me back on my heels. And I also realized that I had to begin asking the question, am I working too much in my business and too little on my business? Honestly, this is a conversation I have a lot with people that I coach. Where is your input in the business? Is your input more going into the production action side, or is your input balanced well into the vision and goal setting and bigger picture side of the business? And I knew that I needed to really reevaluate that. So I actually had a day to where, just with all of the pressures and all of the things that were on my mind, I had to pull back and I cleared my calendar. I was home alone on that day. We at home we have this big island in our kitchen. It's 9 feet long and 3.5 feet wide, and so I took out business of these note cards and I just laid out note cards. And every time I had a thought of something that I'm putting energy to, or something that's really important, or a value, any of those categories in the business, I would write that down on a note card and lay it on the island. And so I have this picture of, actually, I took a picture while I was done, of that entire island full of note cards. And what that allowed me to do is to be able to really unload all these things that felt so heavy, the things that I was carrying, and the things that I felt like I had to think about and consider in my business. And I got to get them all out on paper. And there was something just so powerful about taking all those things that I was juggling in my mind, I was carrying for our team, and felt like I had to think about as a business owner, and get them out. And it's almost like it took that weight off of my mind. And so I would encourage you to consider that. Maybe this January, or this sometime this year, early on, that you would just kind of set aside some time and get out some paper, get out some note cards, use some post-it notes, find a wall to cover it with post-it notes, or a big, if you have a big island or a big table you can use, and just get everything out of your heart and mind on paper that is important to you, or that you feel like you're carrying. And then take a deep breath. And as I did that, I was able to then start sorting through all the things that I felt like were really important, and really focus down on the things that were the most important. And so items that kind of had felt heavy before now were on a piece of paper that I could sort and say, you know what, that's not really important for now. That's for later. Or that isn't really my focus, or that doesn't really fit into my mission. It's a task that I'm doing, or an activity that I'm involved in that's not moving the mission forward. And so I was able to get more clear about my mission, my vision, my purpose, my values, and use those as a filter for which of these note cards fit into which categories to move our business forward. And then I was able to walk away with a better plan of where my time needed to go, like putting more time into this podcast, putting more time into talking with leaders around the world and hearing their stories so that that can be shared, because this has a multiplying effect, that this 30 minutes of time can be heard over and over and over again at any on demand time that you have, when you're at the gym, or when you're on a run, or you're on a drive. Those can be moments where I can have impact, and our leaders that we're interviewing can have impact. And I felt like things like that were a better use of my time than some of the other things that I was involved in. So I began to evaluate each task and really kind of put an X on them. Is it something that if I do this, then I'm one person doing one activity and adding, kind of one plus to the effort here? Or is this something that when I do it, it has an X factor where it's like, if I do this, then it's 2X or 3X or 10X or 100X or 1,000X of my time. This 30 minutes investment is actually has if it actually has a 100x effect on the world, then I need to make sure I'm elevating those moments and including that in my week or in my day. So it gave me an opportunity to really evaluate, what is my mission? How did these items fit there? And I realized that there were some places where I and my company was being misunderstood. We had had some successes with multiple of our clients, and I was afraid we were being kind of categorized as only for that win, when really we're so much more. We can offer so much more to our clients. So we wanted to make sure we were delivering what more we're able to be for our clients. Maybe as you evaluate how people interact with your business, maybe they're missing out on what more you can offer them. They're not getting the full message of who you are, who you can be for the customer that you interact with. And so we had to really look at our messaging about how we're delivering. And so that was a great time of reflection. I would call that one of those, I keep asking our guests, hey, what's a failure that ended up propelling you forward? And I felt like that May, June time of this year was really felt like a failure. And let me tell you, after that, it didn't happen overnight, but over the next few months, because our message got more clear, because we were more clear about what we were about, other people came to us, new clients came to us asking for assistance, and we were able to be so much more clear about what we desired to do, what our mission was, how we could help them. And the yeses became so much easier for us as we move forward. So I just want to offer that as encouragement. It's not an overnight fix, but it is something that can really help you be more clear about where to put your energy, and know that the energy you're investing is for the right things and moving toward the vision that you have for your work. So one of the things I had to consider for myself, and this might be a good question for you, is what are the things that I need to do in the business, and what are the things that I should do working on the business? there are some things that I think are really important for me and the place we are and the size company we're at and the way we interact with our clients where I need to be in the business. I need to be an active participant in the operational daily operations of the business. And so here are some benefits though that I recognize as I invest on being an active participant in our business is it helps me to have a really clear understanding of what our clients need. Because I'm interacting with a portion of our clients, then I'm able to understand how to deliver to them for all of us and how to message for everyone about where our clients are and what they need right now. So it gives me, really clear perspective about what's going on in the industries that we're working in so that we can be very responsive to the needs. So it's important for me, my choice was to have a percentage of my time working in the business. It also has helped me identify tools. One of the things that I love to do is find a challenge and help find a way to talk about that challenge to simplify it and to create a tool. I love creating tools. And this is actually played forward for the rest of our team because then in our normal monthly team meeting, I get to bring these tools and share it with them. So as you think about working in the business, what are the benefits for you for being an active participant in the business? Are you in the business because you're having to rescue the business, or are you in the business because it actually adds value and helps you be more perceptive about how to lead the business forward? And the last thing that it does for me is it helps me understand where our priorities are and where the priorities are for our clients so that we can be aware and help make sure that we're tracking with the current needs because the industry is constantly changing and we have to be really aware of what are the current priorities so that we're delivering for them. Now, as I consider working in the business, then I've also considered how do I need to work on the business, and that's something like doing the note card day that I talked about. So I pull aside and I get all these thoughts out of my head and take time to think about globally from a bigger perspective on the business and making sure that the efforts that we're working on are matched to the mission that we're on and just checking in on that alignment. And that needs to happen on a regular basis where I have time to pull aside and think, and maybe think with some of our leaders or thinking alone. But that time to work on the business is really important. Another way that I'm working on the business is I'm writing. I've hired a writing coach. I've pull aside. I'm taking some of these ideas that we've learned and developed with our clients, and I'm trying to formulate those into a message that can be shared in the form of a book. And if you've never written a book, which I really haven't, I'm in this journey now and look forward to sharing with you more about how that's going. But I would encourage you, even if you never publish, to take time to write down in a way that would be formulated into a book because putting it into a book form takes so much effort to make it clear enough that it actually is a great exercise in clarity about your message, about a deliverable that you have or a concept that you use. And so putting that into book form has really been a great time for me to spend working on the business. Creating this podcast has been a way for me to work on the business, and in interacting with guests and talking with them and learning from them and reflecting with them has given me a lot more access to higher level thinking about how my business should work, and I hope it's helping you in the same way. So all that to say, thanks for joining us on this journey with the podcast, and my desire is for this to add value to your life, for you to find something useful in every episode. One of my goals in every episode is to try to put the most valuable things early in the episode, so that if we don't get you the whole time, at least we've given you the biggest piece of value closer to the beginning. And then the rest of the podcast would be maybe unpacking that more. So talk to me, let me know, what are the ways can we offer value to you? What do you need? What gaps can we help you fill? What kinds of interviews might we go after so that we can help you in your work? Um, we would love to make this as valuable as possible to all of our listeners, no matter what industry they're in. We believe that leadership and developing culture is something that leaders must do. And so we want to encourage leaders and give you the tools to be able to transform the cultures that you're a part of. So as we interview various guests, we want to pull out those learnings from them and share them right here with you, so that as you build culture around you, you have the tools that you need to build your own culture brand. So one thing I'm challenging you with today, when this episode, is just to consider pulling aside sometime in the next few weeks. Set aside half a day or a full day, go somewhere where you won't be interrupted. Take a stack of note cards, take a Sharpie, and try to just unload all the things from your mind onto those note cards to get them all spread out, and then begin to sort through and see, okay, what's really important here? What fits our mission? Where are we trying to go to? What are the goals that we have? And see what you can kind of sort off of your mind, get some of the weight off of you. Maybe it's you end up handing a stack of note cards to one of your team members and say, hey, can you handle some of these? And can we work through these with you together? Because I need someone to focus on these while I focus on these other things. So use that note card exercise as a way to grow as a leader and really sort through all the things that might be weighing on you right now. That weight can negatively affect your mindset and put you on a course that isn't good for your organization. It isn't good for your leaders. Your mindset has to be right, has to be in a growth mode in order for everyone to benefit. If you're feeling overwhelmed, it's very difficult to move back into that growth mindset until you take time to really unload that, unpack it. Find a coach, unpack it with a coach. Find a friend, find a mentor. Have someone look into these details and the things that are weighty for you, and really sort through them to get down to what are the priorities for you right now. And after that, you can set some goals, work through that strategy. But first of all, you need to get that weight off of yourself and really see it objectively. So I just want to challenge you with this exercise. It worked well for me. And if you want help with that, I'm happy to point you in some direction or guide you through that. But I'd love for you to take on this challenge in the next few weeks. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey in the Build Your Culture Brand podcast. It has been so fun interacting with our guests and seeing and hearing from you, and how this has been an impact for you and how you've been able to relate to the different stories. So send me a direct message. I'd love to hear how things are going in your neck of the woods. And let me know if you have ideas about others that I need to interview, so that we can hear more stories and hear these great leadership learnings along the way. Thank you again for being a faithful listener to the Build Your Culture Brand podcast.
Thank you for listening to Build Your Culture Brand with Dr. Jay Rains. If you enjoyed this podcast, please like, comment, and share. You can also visit our website at buildyourculturebrand.com.